Or well enough, at least.
Mm-hmm. So what do you want to do for Dinger Zone?
I had two things. Like, one isn't obvious. Shoot if I can remember what the other one is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Porters, and joining me today, you better pray that you don't have to ride in the car with him after taco night, Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
That dog is the third best acting dog I've ever seen.
And he's out like a light Bruce Leslie. Oh, Bruce isn't here this week. Something came up, but that's okay. Me and Sean are here, and we've got some action for you, some Predator action in a movie so good they were just like, we don't even need to put the name Predator into it. That's some pretty that's some gumption, I would say.
Well, that seems to be the new trend, right? I mean, you have all the Creed movies.
Yeah.
They nowhere around the title does it say, Rocky whatever.
Yeah. The continuation of the Rocky story.
Right. I think that, you see the font or whatever. Like it just from the name of the movie alone, like if that's all you ever knew about this thing, then yes, you're just going to go right by it. But the fact of the matter is, if you see anything about this movie, you instantly know what it is.
And yeah, you get there. And if you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. But that is what we're talking about today. Prey, everybody, from 2022. It is currently on Hulu as we speak here. Surprising, this didn't. This went straight to Hulu. No theatrical at any time, and especially like right now, especially there's nothing out currently. So I'm surprised that this didn't hit theaters. But
doesn't that feel like it's part of that Disney merger stuff? That's totally what this feels like to me.
Oh yeah, because it's under 20th Century, so it should be a whole nother caboodle there and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll talk about all that, but before we do want to say a giant thank you to the people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those intrepid viewers get the pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, all that kind of good stuff, and help keep supporting this show at the exact same time. So instead of having to hear 25 minutes worth of ads on every single show, we just say, hey, whatever you think is value of this show, put that in a dollar form, send it to us, get yourself some bonus content at the exact same time. How can you possibly go wrong? I go so far as to say that you can't.
I've got to tell you, I've been looking around for new podcasts these last couple weeks, and it is criminal how many commercials are in some of these podcasts. Where the show says it's an hour and a half long, yet there is probably 25 minutes worth of commercials in some of these podcasts, especially like the Big Johnny podcast, where you're just like, holy cow. And it gets to a point for me where if I'm driving, instead of keeping my map app on, I'll keep the podcast app on. And that way I can fast forward through.
You can smash through a couple of those 30-second reads and stuff like there, and it's just like, it's bad news. And that's the thing. We don't want you to have to listen to a whole plethora of ads and a whole bunch of other stuff. So to keep things from happening, head on over to patreon.com/HMP for people that actually value your time more than those big giant corporations who don't care about you and certainly won't give you an HMP nickname by any stretch of the imagination. So, why don't you head on down to patreon.com/HMP and join up today? You see, only 4 minutes, and you know what we're going to do? We're going to get right into the trailer for Prey.
There's something out there. I've never seen anything like it.
I'm not frightened by a bear.
It's not a bear.
Think you're ready? Prey, rated R. August 5th. Watch the full trailer online now.
Yeah, watch the full trailer online because we're going through just a teaser trailer here.
That's great.
You know what time it is.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Now, I'm not going to lie to you people. I could have. We got the Bruce thing at the last moment.
May I?
Please.
So, the Predator series from Dark Horse Comics, the first one that came out, I was in high school when that first one came out, and it's a four issue miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the time. Let's just start off, and we'll do the addendums later. At the time that I read it, I was so blown away, and it's about Dutch's, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. It's about Dutch's brother because Dutch is missing. And they're like, and so Dutch's brother's got to go find Dutch. And it turns out that it's them dang Predators. And it is, at the time of me reading this, it was like, this is so absolutely brilliant. I can't believe it. And then Predator 2, you know what? I was in junior high because then Predator 2 comes out. And that was such a pile of dog crap that I was like, why didn't they just go with what Dark Horse had done? And it's the first instance I had ever had, me being a comic book dork, where the thing that's happening in the comic books is better than what's happening in movies. I mean, what would happen later is, significant, where you're just like, oh my God, there's 30 years of us complaining about why don't they just do it the way the comic books do it?
Yeah.
But at that point, it was that rare moment where awesome movie, if you're 13 years old, comes out and your boy comes out. Then the Dark Horse thing comes out and it's incredible. It's just at the time I'm 14, probably 15 when that came out. And I was like, oh man, this is so good. And, now in retrospect as an adult, it's just like, well, this is just awful. But when you're a kid, it's amazing. And at the time it seemed like that was a better story than the Predator 2 storyline was. And it seemed to make more sense. Like, they're going to the Dutch's brothers going to the jungle. And, like it's a whole lot of the same stuff.
I like to think, I like to picture the idea that like it's all about Dutch's brother trying to find him because they can't get the likeness rights to Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Dutch is always just off frame.
Well, you're not wrong because he does not show up in the book.
We're always just shy of finding him. At the end, they do not find Dutch. And it's left as a cliffhanger of, he just left. He escaped when you beat up them Predators there, fella. It turns out you just missed him.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And there is an absolute chance here that I'm remembering it wrong, but I don't think I am. And so it's one of the, or maybe like, they killed Dutch, but then they didn't. Like it's something like that. And so like
now Dutch is a predator. That's how these things always start working.
But it's so funny because I know that everybody thinks of like movie adaptations, at least that's the way it used to be, that movie adaptations and TV adaptations of comic books are all awful. However, that is literally what got me into comic books in the first place was the Star Wars comic books. It was the first comics I'd ever read as a child. And it really got me into the medium. So they're going to keep doing it because it just makes sense.
There we go. Well, if that comic connection, see, that's not too bad. We didn't even need Bruce. We do need him for this show, though. That's not it. If that comic connection wasn't enough for you, though, let me sell everybody on this sequel that has been going on for quite some time here because this bad boy's got everything. We got 1700s Comanches. We got an English language, so no reading, so I'm happy. We got girl power that you actually want to believe in. Future tech that's not scaring people enough for my taste. A cute dog, French people, never-ending story swamp of sadness homage. Cloaking and decloaking. A lot of cloaking and decloaking.
Mm-hmm.
Predator darts, laser sights, heat vision, bear chasing, arrow shooting, head exploding, skull boiling, trail tracking, spine ripping, and a Predator sequel that people actually seem to like. This movie's got everything.
So the way we always do this is what is your connection to these movies? Like, because I'll get into mine afterward, but like when it comes to Predator, how do you feel about not just the character but the franchise themselves?
There's I answer it by answering it with a in the most classic Adam Porteous way that you can possibly imagine. There was a deleted scene in Pulp Fiction where Uma Thurman's asking John Travolta about, are you a Beatles fan or an Elvis fan? You can be a fan of either or. You're a fan of both, but you at one time or another you have to draw the line and make a decision which one is your favorite. And I believe that Alien and Predator is very much same of that kind of thing. There were Alien kids and Predator kids. I was an Alien kid. I liked Alien far more than Predator. Predator, it didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was. Like, my brother was more the Predator kid. Of course, my brother was also the kid that played more in the woods and stuff like that. I was not that kid. So I was the guy that was going in the spaceship. My brother was the guy who was going into the woods. So I think that's where that kind of comes down. I was never a huge Predator fan. I like the first movie's fine for what it is. I like the idea. I like looking back at the old pictures and stuff where for a hot second they had Jean-Claude Van Damme be the Predator. But it turns out like he's just a tiny little man, and that's not very imposing.
Yeah.
And there was always something to me that was off kind of about the Predator and like within the design of the character, which is like, because the head of the Predator is really very cool. Unfortunately, in order to make that head work, it's got to be gigantic on a human-sized body, and it's always looked weird and top-heavy and odd. And I always looked at that and said, like, this doesn't feel like it would be like the greatest hunting thing in the world because it's so wildly off-balance and strange. But overall, the movie's fine. Most of the sequels are pretty, who cares? I will say Predators was not that bad. The Robert Rodriguez produced Predators with Adrian Brody. I thought that one was okay. Sequel, no, Predator 2, no thank you. Aliens versus Predator, have we covered at least one of those on this show?
We have, Requiem.
Yeah. You can go back and listen to what I thought about that. That's about the same. I guess that's about the same when I feel for all of these things. Like, Predator was never like a really big... I know a lot of people are huge Predator people, and but for me, it was never something that seemed so sacrosanct or that's you don't want to, don't be messing up my Predator kind of thing. It's just like, they're probably all going to suck, and it's not as good as the first one, and that's kind of how it's been. Just a letdown. But everything has been a letdown since the first one, and even then, I wasn't super, like, wow. It's like, give me Alien over Predator any day.
It's funny, man, because to me, Alien and Predator, that line, that division line you're talking about, is literally me, is literally who I am. Because it seems like if you were more of a jockey kid, this is just boys. If you were a jockey kid growing up, you really love Predator also. Like both of those things are true. You can love baseball and Predator. You know what I mean? But like I don't know too many kids that played, baseball or football or whatever, that were big Aliens fans.
Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense.
And especially not Alien. Like Aliens, maybe.
Sure, because it's a bunch of guns and military stuff and everything like that.
Course.
It's more like Predator.
Right, but not Alien, the first one.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And so that is literally the dichotomy of my personality, is that I got a foot in both worlds, basically. And so I have always loved both things. However, the Alien franchise has let me down quite a bit. Like, I like the first one. I like the second one. The third one is okay. And that's it.
Yeah.
But with Predator, oh my, there's the first movie, then there's 30 years. And it's one of those things where the franchise had been so ruined for me because I watched the second one. And I know everybody is starting to wax nostalgic about how great Predator 2 is. It's straight garbage.
You're wrong. It's not.
You
good.
are incorrect. It is an awful movie. And so then, then there's Alien versus Predator, Alien versus Predator 2, and it's all straight crap. It's all garbage, to the point that when they made Predators, I was like, there's no way I'm seeing this movie. Like there's just no way. I've been hurt one too many times on this franchise.
Not again.
And then I got laid up for a weekend at my buddy's house when I was working. And he's like, hey, I got a couple of DVDs in the guest room there if you want to see it. If you want to like just watch movies all weekend. I was like, yes, I do. And he is one of those guys who has just the worst taste in movies ever. like to give you an example, Battle of Los Angeles is one of his favorite movies. Just to give you an idea of how bad it's bad. And so one of the movies that he had was Predators. And it was like, look, I'm going to be in and out of consciousness anyway with this flu that I have. No big deal. So I put that in, and boy, howdy, it is great. It's not blow your socks off great, but it's good.
Especially compared to the other
everything
Predator
else we have ever gotten. And so I was like, boy, this really is probably the second best Predator movie I've ever seen. And then when you hear that Shane Black is making The Predator, and you're like, well, that guy, because as I was saying during Dinger Zone, I was, I had mistakenly thought that Shane Black had written The Predator, or the first Predator movie, but he didn't. He had nothing to do with the writing. He was just the guy with the glasses who gets killed first in the first Predator movie, which is shocking to me. Anyway, because I have believed for 100 years that he was actually the writer, and he wrote himself into a role, which I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But anyway. So then The Predator comes out, and I'm like, we're off the rails again. Yeah. This movie sucks.
Yeah, exactly. When that one came out, it felt like, did we cover that one on the show? Maybe it was a film find, but it is so not good, that movie.
It is awful, man. And again, I'm in your camp, Predator. I want to like your movie, Predator. And then I started hearing about this other thing. Because remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but for years and years and years, they have been talking about this idea, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, forever they've been talking about, for some reason, Native Americans, that's the important part, Native Americans fighting the Predator. I've heard about this movie, I want to say for 20 years. I really do. I think that might be it.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I can remember hearing about a script that was going around that's basically this premise, in the early 2000s. And then they ended up going with AVP. But anyway.
Clearly the correct choice.
Oh my Lord. Well, I mean, there's more money in them hills if they're fighting each other.
That's true. It's called, we can get 2 fan bases with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Genius.
Think of all the toys and boxes where they're squaring off against each other. Amazing.
Face to face.
And so it's just, and it's just awful. But then Prey comes, and I start hearing more and more things about it that I like about it. They're going to they've hired Dan Trachtenberg to be the director, who, for those of you who don't know, is the director of the best Cloverfield movie, which is 10 Cloverfield Lane. Don't just forget about the last 10 minutes. That's not his fault. The rest of that movie,
I even like that last 10 minutes. I like that though. I know why people don't though.
Can you imagine going into that movie theater not knowing anything? And you're watching this movie, and then all of a sudden there's all these monsters at the end of the movie, and you're like, oh my God.
What is this now?
What is this? What have I come into? I thought it was about a crazy guy. Just bonkers.
Just aliens now. Hope you enjoy
it brings to mind that I went to see the second Matrix movie, and there was a couple behind me, and the girl hadn't seen the first one.
Oh, no.
And so he's trying to explain everything that happened in the first Matrix, which is really hard to explain to someone.
Okay, so there's an alternate reality.
Watching the Matrix 10. I mean, just unbelievable.
How are you not getting this?
So then, I kept hearing more and more about this movie, and the more I heard about it, the more I liked it. Oh man, Amber Midthunder's in this. I loved Amber Midthunder in Legion. There's a lot of really cool things happening. And so 2 weeks ago, I think, when this movie came out, when this movie premiered on Hulu, I saw it with very little expectation because of, being burned
Predator.
so many times before with Predator. and just being yowza, this movie's got what I want. I mean, it was so good that I think because just my surprise, I was just so surprised with how competently made this movie is.
So
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
So here we are. No. I'm finished. I'm just rounding it up so I can throw the meatball to you. So basically, this I come into this movie with no expectations and just get absolutely thrilled by watching this.
Yeah, I think one of the big things and one of the reasons why this works is Dan Trachtenberg, who, by the way, they were actually in talks for him to direct that last Predator movie as well.
Oh, wow. Much different movie if he would have directed.
I think so as well. And he's like, I mean, because 10 Cloverfield Lane is like the biggest profile thing that he's done, but he's been connected to a whole bunch of things that never really happened. Everything.
I think after this movie though, that all changes.
I think it will. I think it'll start to get there, and people go, "Oh, you made the best Predator movie since Predators way back." So
the second best Predator movie ever made.
Not too shabby. But he's about my age, and
he's elderly.
Yeah, he's an elderly man. But like I knew Danny's work and everything before. Like he made it big and stuff because he was kind of an internet personality before internet personalities were actually like, a big thing.
Yeah, he was one of the three people on the Totally Rad show. I remember him from that.
Yeah, and so like just seeing him and like knowing that like during all that Totally Rad time, he was a commercial director in a lot of things. So like this is a guy who comes from a very visual medium because in commercials you got on average about 30 seconds worth of stuff to do and you've got to tell a story and usually you can't do that with a whole bunch of words. So I knew he was going to be a great addition to this, and especially, again, because I know so much about the guy and his tastes, because I've followed his show for years and what he likes and doesn't like. I kind of know a lot of that stuff, so I know where his wheelhouse is. So when I heard him doing Predator, I know he's a huge Predator fan. I know how he is a very visual director, and then when you find out that what they're doing as far as putting this in the 1700s and stuff, I was like, this is going to be pretty good because the kid can tell a story, and doing it in this new fashion to where, again, I think if you knew zero about this going in and you just said, hey, we're going to watch this movie about, this Native American tribe or whatever, I don't know, maybe you could blow some minds here when all of a sudden Predator shows up out of nowhere, because the thing that they did that makes this movie ultimately work is that it's not about the Predator.
No,
it's not about the Predator.
Yeah, and the two things that they get absolutely right in this movie, the two things are, one, there is another story happening during the Predatoring, and two is that there is no expectation that the Predator is scary. It's not a horror. It's not like a semi-horror movie anymore, like they've been trying to make for a million years.
Yeah,
that has been
going
their problem.
Away from that, more of a survival kind of thing.
Right. I mean, it's the most dangerous game with an alien. Like, that's literally what the first Predator is. Also, just the nice side effect of having that Predator in the first movie is that it's scary at the time. Like, not super scary, but it's a little scary. And especially if you're a kid. Whereas now, smash cut to 30 years later, no one's afraid of the Predator anymore.
It's like, it's a big dude with a giant head. Oh, look at that.
Right. Right, and so no child is afraid of the Predator.
Those fangs come out, and you're like, "Oh, cute."
I mean, it's like when you hear how scared people were of Frankenstein's monster, where you're like, "Are you kidding me?" Like that kind of thing. Like, there's nothing scary about the Predator at this point, and so that's one of the really smart things that they did with this. Now, the very first thing I said about this movie going into the show today is that this is the third best acting dog I've ever seen in a movie. Do you agree?
Okay, so number one is clearly going to be Beethoven from Beethoven.
We know sir, that. No, that dog's an idiot. No way. No way.
You idiot dog. All right, listen. No, here's the thing. You folks may not know this, but I need actually to defer to the dog acting master, Mr. Sean's Kovacs. Where? Show us the breadth of the dogs.
Okay, so number one on everyone's list should be the dog from The Mask with Jim Carrey. That dog is incredible.
I feel that dog's real name is Otis.
It is Milo, so you're super close.
Hey, I can't be faulted for that one. I was a '90s kid. Milo and Otis was a great movie.
Man, no one's blaming you. I think it was a super great guess. But that dog gives an actual performance in that movie too, if you remember.
Oh yeah,
like it is giving looks and takes and
head cock and burying your head in your hands and stuff like that. Oh yeah,
it's amazing. So that's number one. Number two is Wishbone. Wishbone could do anything. That dog was also amazing and pretty close to the same type of dog, though not the same dog, though people make that mistake all the time. Not the same dog. The dog that was Wishbone, that dog's name is Soccer in real life.
I love people's dumb names for their animals. It's so great.
Me too, man. Me too.
Soccer. Why? I like soccer. Okay.
Because I just love soccer, baby.
Fair.
And so three is this dog here. And the reason being even if it gave a terrible performance in the rest of the movie, that scene in the opening when she is walking by all of the teepees and the tents and she's in, camp, and there are a million people that she's walking by. And there are people that are cooking. There are people doing chores. There are people doing a million different things. That dog is by her side the entire time. Mm-hmm. That dog doesn't run past her to go to the trainer. The dog isn't looking at the trainer. The dog is looking at Amber Midthunder the entire time. That dog that is what makes that dog the third best acting dog of all time.
Not the CGI dog in the Harrison Ford film that came out.
Those are better, but those are computers.
It's like, why is this dog smoking a cigarette?
Man, I've never seen that movie, but I kind of want to, because that's what keeps coming up whenever somebody mentions like good acting dogs. Somebody, especially film nerds like us, will be like, "Oh man, you seen Call of the Wild with Harrison Ford? You seen that dog?" So maybe
the dog basically has a personality to it. It's just like, we're going to give this dog a show on Hulu itself right here, boy, because he's just like, it's almost, we're at Garfield level with this dog.
So another thing that I need to bring up, because how many times have you seen this movie?
Just the once.
Okay, I've seen it 2 times now, and something that I feel needs to be brought up, because when you see this movie multiple times, one of the best parts about this movie is the French fur trappers.
Uh-huh.
And it makes me pine for more bad guys are French fur trappers in movies. Like, we need way more of that, because they are there's something inherently funny about them, even though they're vicious and murderous in this movie. And there's implications of just some really awful things happening that they're doing to the Native Americans in this movie, but there's still something kind of funny about them all.
They're like fat French guys from a Simpsons episode.
Yes.
Kind of like that, where they're big, they're oafish, and there's a little something just inherently kind of underneath funny about it. Even though, you're right, even though they're doing horrific things, it's like, oh, look at all these skinned buffalo, horrible. But yet, these guys are a little bit kind of like, what's with these guys and their crazy little funny accents?
There's something, and it could just be because my first introduction to French fur trappers is the 2 fur trappers on Kids in the Hall. and those are great sketches. But my goodness, if you've got a guy that has waxy mustache, and you've got a guy with a beard that looks like it's just like a beard full of bees, like it just, there's something just inherently funny about them. Every time they would come on screen, I'd be like, oh, those guys. Oh, that's neat.
I like this show does the great thing that you see in everything from like your Hunt for Red October to Valkyrie and all that stuff. We start off in another language, then we're just going to go to English. Thank heavens. But at the same time too, though, and we seem to be the only country that really gets kind of hung up on that. Yeah. I think other countries are just like, listen, it's what people want to. It's the native tongue. It doesn't matter that that's not exactly what they would have said. We just kind of go with it. But it works.
Well, they're looking at the fork because we're looking at the 4 quadrants, baby.
Oh yeah, we're trying to get all of those as much as we possibly can here.
Yes.
But the nice part is that like because somebody mentioned this is that with the Hulu you can do the Comanche dub, as it were. So you can kind of go through and have, which I think it's a great, interesting idea and stuff like that. But and to somebody said that would be an interesting experiment to, for the first time, watch it in that dub, no subtitles or anything. Just try to figure it out.
Oh, I think that you totally
and
could,
I think
it is that movie.
But again,
you could absolutely watch this.
I think that's where it comes from, him being a commercial director, being a visual guy and stuff. And again, being another person who I know he has a long history of video games and playing video games. And I know for certain he's played this game. Believe it or not, there is a video game called Prey that has to do with Native Americans and aliens.
Oh,
which was a pretty well-liked game from what I remember. I don't think I ever really played it myself, but it was a Native American game that had to deal with aliens and stuff like that. And I know for sure he's played that game. So I thought that was kind of funny because at first I thought, oh, were they making a Prey movie about the video game? Because I heard Native Americans Prey and like
sure.
It seemed to make sense, but no, it's a Predator thing, but it works well enough. What do you think about now? We've always kind of had slightly different Predators in each kind of Predator one. What do you think about the design of these guys?
I think it's great. I think he looks great. You know, our main Predator fella. I like the helmet. Like his helm looks great in this. It's completely different, which I'm totally fine with.
Exactly. It gives it a nice, unique look, so it doesn't feel like it has to fall in line with all these other ones. That's like, I feel like they first started doing a good job with things like this in Halo, where there were like a whole bunch of characters that are essentially the same thing, but you smartly design them well enough to where they all have their own kind of personality and whatnot. And it's smart to do that with the Predators, and just to be able to, and again, also with the same with the people within the tribe and everything as well, which I thought was another, again, a great visual storytelling thing, because it's tough to tell, who all these people are, because no one's wearing very distinctive clothing or anything. So we do these great tricks with makeup and stuff. So you can when this guy comes in out of nowhere, you don't think, oh, that's her brother, because you know what her brother's face paint looks like. So you don't get it confused with any of those other guys. Because for half a second I was like, oh, is that her brother? No, her brother doesn't look like that. He's got the down the middle makeup, as opposed to this one who's got the horizontal one.
He's also just so very distinct looking as well. I mean, he really is. He's one. And one of the cool things about this actor is before he got this part in the movie, he worked at, I believe it's a BJ's.
Really?
Yes. He worked at he was working retail, and then he got the call to be in this.
Nice.
And I think that's pretty amazing, and I love hearing stuff like that, because he is so good in it. His name is Dakota Beavers, and Dakota Beavers, also my favorite type of beaver. I mean, quite honestly,
you're gonna
get you a Dakota beaver. Get you a Dakota beaver. That would have been much funnier if I hadn't screwed it up.
All right.
Anyway. He is terrific in this. And on the second go round, when I first watched this movie, it felt like he was being pretty harsh to Naru in this movie. But second go round, he is not. He's actually the voice of reason, and she is being the one who is wrong.
Oh yeah, she's definitely in the wrong for all of this, and like that's what's great about the story as well.
Yes,
is that she should not be out there. She should go away from this, but at the same time too, she's also kind of the only one that's clever enough to figure it all out. And again, that's smart.
And that is the nice thing also, because the brother is quite honestly, he was probably going to be the leader of this tribe at some point, because he behaves like a leader. He knows what her value is, even though she really shouldn't be out here. When he says, "Oh, she's a great tracker." Also, if we find him and the lion has mangled our guy, then she knows medicine. Stuff like that, where the other guys are busy punching her in the face. Like at that one point, that was very surprising to me when I
liked it because it was as hard as it needed to be. It's real. Yeah,
it's real.
It felt like that's coming from a real place right there.
And they would be violent with her. They absolutely would. Like there wouldn't be that fake 90s girl power stuff of like you better respect me because blah blah blah. And then
but when she's getting hit, you care. That's the difference. That's the big difference, is that when these things happen, because you've set this up so well, we give a crap about this character and we don't want her to be hit.
Right. And the fact that there's like one or two guys in the tribe itself who legitimately hate her.
Oh yeah, she's not liked.
Yeah, right. Not everybody hates her, but there are those two kids during the first hunt where they clearly hate her, and I thought that was such a nice touch.
We don't want no girls messing up our hunt, kind of thing.
Right. Speaking for half of Predator's audience.
We don't want this crap.
Exactly. We have talked about your big action movies in the past and the things that really, really blew us away. And we spoke about it very specifically during Jet Li's The One, and how usually in your big actioners, the ones that really, really get you, there's 3 moments where you're just like, wow. And this movie has those 3 moments for me. Do you have 3 moments in this movie? You want me to tell you what mine are, and then you can?
Well, I'll certainly start off with the bear attack was really great.
It would have been if the CGI wasn't laughable.
It was a little floaty at times, but there were a couple of moments where it was like, that's pretty good.
I like the storytelling of it. But there are moments in this movie, especially like weirdly, like at the top when you see the Predator ship come through the clouds. Mm-hmm. That looks like some Captain Power style CG there, it's really bad.
Man, if I had a little Predator ship that I could have been flying right in front of this thing
Start
the whole
shooting
time,
your TV with
it, heck yeah, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Do some of that.
But I agree, and I do like how she's able to figure out through that. Again, it's one of those really it's a really smart script that she's able to tell that the Predator doesn't want to attack the prey.
Yeah, and again, this is, I think, okay, because we didn't talk about this. This is really the whole crux of everything and why this thing works as cool as it does, because it gives us an element of that. I'm trying to think of a good parallel here.
Well, let me tell you, what I think you're referring to is Gremlins. That there's 3 rules to Gremlins, and it's kind of the same thing with Predator, where he has rules for engagement when you're the most dangerous man.
Exactly. And
am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Because those things are going through there, and because of those rules, then making your weak character the most powerful character on account of that weakness. The weakness being the frail, female of the group and everything. Predator doesn't see you as a threat at that point. Ergo, you become the most dangerous person there because it's not even looking at you.
Oh boy, let me tell you, that made Amber Mid-Thunder real mad. She figured that out. She's like, "How dare you?"
Don't listen. She had enough anger from the beginning. Whenever your dog gets its tail trapped in a thing, you're going to be a little bit peeved from the rest of the movie, I would think. And I heard people were upset at that. They were just like, nobody warned me about a dog getting its tail clapped in a flipping thing.
I do have to say, but I'm going off track here for a second. The most amazing part of this movie to me is when Naru chops off the fish tail and hands it over to her dog, and her dog takes off with it. Because if I had done something like that, my dog would, after I handed my dog the fish tail, it would have been like, what do you expect me to do with this?
What is this now?
This is not cooked. There's scales on it. There's bones in here.
I believe my dog would have shaken it in front of my face and gotten all of it on me if I'm to know him.
So that is the most amazing part of this movie. But for me, because I have notes, as you can probably tell, I have notes watching this movie this week. So we talked about the three things, right? The three things that blow you away, and these are the three moments that I had where I was just like, wow. One is the first thing that made me go, oh my God, like that was very effective, is the skinned snake.
Oh,
and
so
she goes
cool.
up to it and it jumps. And I was like, that is a great moment right there. I was like, oh wow, they know what they're doing.
But even the visual of a fully skinned snake, because we all know that snakes shed their skin and all that kind of good stuff. But like to see a thing actually fully skin a snake, and then just the remains of a sinewy, muscly kind of snake going around, like really eerie and weird looking, and I kind of loved it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great visual. The second thing is the quicksand. Come on, man. That quicksand scene, it's in what makes it so great to me is that when's the last time we got some quicksand in a movie, like for real, where it wasn't a joke and like, Abbott Costello were trying to pull each other out of it? Like it has been probably that long where quicksand was like a plot thread.
Well, I mean, for a hot second there in
Indiana Jones.
Well, in the Star Wars there, where they were out in the middle of the thing, that's kind of we'll call that quicksand for lack of a better word. So
since the 80s is the last time we got some real good quicksand in a movie.
Yeah, I think so. That's probably 80s was lousy with quicksand.
It was all over the place. That's why we were always so afraid of it.
We're gonna get trapped in this thing, and then come to find out, quicksand not all that bad.
Yeah, it's not that hard to get out.
They're just like, oh, you can just kind of get you'll sink the more you try. Not really. Turns out that's
also not true.
That's a bunch of nonsense.
But great for storytelling.
It makes a great story. How do you not love that?
And the third thing, not to give away the end, but her killing the predator with its own weapons, like, I mean, being smart about it, not just like, here's your spear, yeah, like that kind of thing.
And again, another one that I think that Trachtenberg does a good job with this is that, like, I just
explaining
what I know about him and how he works and stuff, and what he expects. Again, because he's done reviewing movies and stuff like that, so I know what he expects for movies and wants for movies. So of course he's going to be delivering those things in the movies that he is making. And they do a fantastic job of that here, and none of it ever feels like it's forced or that they set it up so much with
right.
Like, ooh, where at some point in the movie this is going to be the thing that happens. They don't do that to you. They don't dangle it in front of your face, going, "This is going to come back later." They just do it, and it's nice.
I mean, it makes it sound like I think this is the most perfect movie in the world, and it's not. It's just very good. Like, one of the things that that makes me crazy about this movie is if Naru's got an axe just by itself, she's no good with that thing. She's not killing anything. However, if you pull bark off of a tree and make a rope with it and tie that to the axe, she's like Hawkeye.
I loved that so much. It made it, again, it's the video gamification of it, but it works to where you've got this thing that, like, in reality probably would not work anywhere remotely as good as it does, but boy, oh boy, is it cool to have this axe on a thing and be able, and again, I feel like for sure, because there was something in this that happens a little bit later that does this. I know he's putting some Master of the Flying Guillotine into this sort of thing.
Of course.
It is all on this bad boy. I love it.
But look, I don't have a problem with that. Like, I don't have a problem with the fact that rope would never be a bungee cord. But what I take issue with is she's no good with the axe until she puts the rope around it.
Yeah, you need to be good with the one.
Yeah,
you need to juggle 3 balls before you can do 5.
Exactly, and so that's the only thing I take issue with. Like the physics of pulling tree bark, like whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah, that doesn't bother me nearly as much as I am terrible with this axe until I add something extra to it, and then I'm really great at it.
Let me put a scope on this axe.
Well, I mean, if anything, it's a degree of difficulty, right? It makes it actually harder to throw a throwing axe if you've got a rope around it, I would think.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to screw up some trajectory at some point, unless,
of course,
even no matter how much slack you got on that thing.
Of course, and here I have a real question here. So, who is it that keeps kicking her awake in the morning? Is it her mom?
I think so. Like,
because she gets kicked awake no less than 2 times in this movie, maybe even 3. And
one
it's
of those
not her
she's
brother.
In like wild pain and stuff as well.
Right. And it's not her brother, because at one point we see the same pair of feet kicking her awake and her brother's still asleep. And they make a point of saying, like, she's got to get up, but the brother, the master hunter, doesn't need to wake up right away.
I like to think that it's just the predator himself going around and kind of pranking her.
Oh, that'd be great.
Just kind of kicking her and running away, blaming it on the other guys in the crew, just to sow some distrust within the actual group itself. Predator likes to go the long con.
So another thing that I really like about it, that I noticed it so much that I made a note of it, is just how this movie is not over edited.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not under edited. It's like if they're in a TP, you're cross editing all of these shots a lot. But if it's exterior stuff, they are taking their time with that stuff, and I love that, because your want is basically to make it seem faster, harder, and more intense. But it's like by doing what Trachtenberg does and what the editing staff does with this movie, it's showing you basically a long game, and it was far more effective than doing your cut after cut after cut. Like, you go, like, a lot of movies now is like 1 2 3 cut, 1 2 3 cut, and that is not this movie.
There's a lot of moving camera and stuff that's done super well, and to where. There's that fluidity to it, and that's the thing that I feel like moves this thing along and keeps it from becoming stale and everything, is because everything is moving, everything is constantly just kind of, it has a little something going on. It doesn't feel like we're resting too awful much, unless we're specifically needing to have that as far as the story element goes. It's just slowing stuff down. But otherwise, we're still kind of always moving. We're still pushing in a particular direction. And again, it's a nice thing that we have that this movie is only 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. In a world where we're just getting way too much, and they could have gone, there's so many alleys that they could have gone down in this movie that would have just been a disaster. And they don't, because they're just like, you know what? We're going to keep it lean. We're going to keep it mean and focus on the things that, frankly, people want to see in these movies, and not some bullcrap that they don't.
And they also were able to make a stinger without actually having a stinger, which is very clever indeed. But to get back to this for a second, right? So I'm looking at my notes here, and we haven't spoken about my favorite scene in this entire movie, the one that really took it over the top for me, which is when Naru and her brother are being used as bait by the French trappers, and they're tied to that tree, and it's a forest that's just been completely leveled by fire, and so, like, it's all smoky and there's ash everywhere. And the predator is like being lured into this area, and the French trappers are literally trapping a predator. And my God, how effective, how wonderful, how visually stunning that entire scene is. It's my favorite thing in the movie, and it really was the moment where I was like, I've liked this movie, but now I really love this movie.
Yeah, it's very well constructed and executed. It's tough to. And another thing that you mentioned, and that I was thinking about when you mentioned how the editing and the pacing and all this stuff and the camera movements and whatnot also feels very Last of the Mohicans in a lot of that sense as well, just from the camera movement standpoint. That feels, Michael, if you go back and look at Last of the Mohicans, it has a lot of that kind of vibe to it as well. So, like, I think
you could do a lot worse. You could do a whole lot worse than cribbing from Michael Mann. And I do have to say that I wasn't able to make my joke this week when you sent me a text and you were like, "Hey, the crew did a great job wetting down the streets here," and I wanted to go, "Is Michael Mann in Charlotte?" But I wasn't able to make my joke.
Keeping it moist outside, everybody. That's
Boy, that dude loves wetting down some streets.
I don't care what time of day it is. It just got finished raining, boy.
It absolutely did in a Michael Mann movie. You've never seen wetter streets in your entire life.
Now, people are talking about this, and I want to get your kind of idea, because obviously who knows what Hulu numbers are and how they translate any of these things, and what a quote unquote success looks like. But from everything that I'm gathering, listening to people and seeing reactions and stuff for this seems quite successful for 20th Century and perhaps Hulu, or however you want to parse it out. So chances are we're going to get more of this in the future. Do you think that it's going to be like, because I've heard people think of all kinds of ideas of jumping predators throughout time, if you will.
No, you don't need to go all throughout time. I understand that that's the want. Like, oh, hey, it worked during this. What if they're fighting Romans?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that. You hit them with the fur trappers. The fur trappers are pissed. They can't wait to hunt down a new predator, whatever that is. Right. But like half of the secret of this movie, the secret sauce of this movie, is your casting, your locations, and your director. Like, and the script is also pretty top notch also. But like your director and your performances are really the secret sauce of this movie. Where, it's okay to be watching a movie that is supposed to be in Cherokee. Is it Cherokee? Comanche? I can't remember.
Comanche, I think it's Comanche.
Comanche. And Comanche, and people are speaking English. What is not going to go over super well is if we're still doing the same thing we did in Gladiator, where everyone's speaking with a British accent. People are going to tune out. It's just going to happen. Oh, by the way, to get back to my favorite scene in the movie, we get the "if it bleeds, we can kill it" line.
Yeah, that's a good one.
From the first Predator. That's awesome. And my word, what a twisteroo, and it's great. Where she's telling him the beaver story. And she's like, we saw those beavers and it was stuck in the water. And he's like, "What are you doing? What are you going to do? What are you doing?" And she ends it with, "Well, I'm smarter than a beaver."
That is pretty good.
That is just a terrific way to end that scene. I mean, just absolutely marvelous. Like, just some top-notch movie making from everyone involved in that. She even hit the joke right.
Yeah.
So clever.
When they're making fun of it, it's like, "Oh, here's this allegory, and we're going to learn a little bit something about this." No, that's dumb. What?
Yeah.
No, it's dumb. Think about it. I have, and conclusion I've come to? Dumb. I'm a human being. I'm smarter than that. We this may be 1700s. There may not be a lot of technology. I believe I'm smarter than a beaver, though. Do believe that.
The only way you could go forward to where it would be like surprising to have a twist on the Predator mythos at this point, and make no mistake, if you haven't seen this movie and you're just listening to our podcast, there is nothing surprising in this movie. Like, exactly what's going to happen from minute one, but that's fine. It's a story. It's a good story told well. And that's all I'm really looking for. And don't insult my intelligence. And that only happens one time in this movie, and that's it. Like, everything else is pretty great. The special effects are, again, Captain Power level.
Some of them are good. There's good ones in there.
Some of them are. I do think they do a pretty good job with the Predator, with the Predator stuff. Like, when it's not a person, in a suit, like It's CG. Like that stuff looks good too. Couple more notes here. Do you think that bear was racist or just hungry?
He's just hungry. He's
just a hungry fella.
And if he is, he's just a product of his environment. Those people came in and screwed up his place. Of course, he's going to be a little bit angry about it.
How many cool hipster guys are going to have a dog named Suri in the next few years, do you think?
Ooh. It's okay. Thankfully, that's a little bit tougher to say there. Like, at least it's not like a Jonesy or something like that, where it feels like 8 billion people would be naming their cats Jonesy or something. So at least it's not as easily sayable. So I think that's where we'll get it, a little respite from that actually happening too much.
You're not wrong. That's a pretty good point there.
If that dog's name was JoJo, we'd have problems.
Oh man, not a bad name for a dog.
Yeah, could be worse.
Here's another one. The French guy that shows Naru how to use a gun.
I thought that was cool.
He looks like one of the Wayans brothers of White Chicks. There's something really wrong with his face, is what I'm saying. He
looked like a character actor-y kind of guy. He was not like your the standard guy that's coming to the auditions.
It's true.
I don't know if he was an amputee or not, or if that was like real or a fakey deal.
Oh, that's a very good question. What I would say to you though is, he's going to get a whole lot more work just based on on that dude's face.
Yeah, he's got one of them faces. He's got a face that just goes like, "Oh, that guy's real."
You don't see too many of them faces around.
Yeah, that's a real person. That's a real person who's not a Hollywood actor coming out, but it worked.
And the last note I have here is the pistol from Predator 2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good moment or a bad moment?
I think it's one that kind of because I'd forgotten about it, to be quite honest.
Really?
I was just like, okay, this gun, what is it? Like, I later remember, I was like, oh yeah. But I don't know that it'll register with most people.
I think it does. I mean, if you're watching Prey, chances are you've seen Predator 2. I mean,
maybe.
If you're two elderly gentlemen like we are, like the chances are that where that gun comes from.
If you're in our group, yeah. But I'm thinking more like your average.
Like your 13-year-old boy.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Someone goes like, "Oh, there's one of these Predator movies on there," and you see that, they're not gonna know from that.
And I got a question for you off the top of the dome. So, if there is one more successful Predator movie,
mm-hmm.
do you think Schwarzenegger comes back for a cameo?
I'm almost surprised he hasn't been doing that, at least to some degree or another, because how much could it cost?
Well, I mean, at this point now it's going to be much cheaper to get the man for sure, but I think that there's something about him not wanting to go back to a sequel. Like the only thing he does that to really is Terminator, right?
Yeah, and even then he's almost out of that completely.
Well, except for that last one where he's all over it and ruins the movie.
I didn't watch that one, so
don't bother.
As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't count. It's like after Salvation, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
The thing about that last Terminator movie is that movie is terrific until you bring back the original Terminator cast, and then you're just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, they come across a lot of it's a lot of same thing. It's a lot of Star Wars problem.
Yes, it is. It is the Star Wars problem. They do have it. You're right.
Can't get away from it.
Also, do you think that Danny Glover comes back in the next one?
Oh, listen, if you ask Danny to go by, if you got like a half a ham sandwich at Capri Sun, he'll show up to your film.
Don't you make fun of Danny Glover? He's a treasure.
Not necessarily about. I'm just saying he's easy to get. All right, and you know what?
So that wasn't you making fun of him.
Not per se.
That was you just making a point.
Well, listen, in my way. You know what it's like to be around me. Even if I'm giving you a compliment, I'm probably going to smack you a little bit with it. Why not? I got to make myself feel better somehow. But you know how I make myself feel the most better is I ask myself how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Hola, Mr. Stallone. This week, I'd like to speak to you about one of the producers of Prey, John Davis. He's worked with you before, but I'd never heard of him, which is really my fault because he's produced 185 projects as I write this.
Night.
And back in August of 2003, The Hollywood Reporter recognized him as Hollywood's most prolific producer, and that was in 2003. If you've ever listened to this bit before, you're probably waiting for me to list off a bunch of movies that he's produced that suck so bad that even just saying the name of the movie is a joke. But the first movie that this guy ever produced was Predator.
Jeez.
He's had some misses for sure, but nothing that would make you think, oh man, that is the worst movie, except for the other Predator movies.
Oh.
But he's not only in the movie business. Oh, no. John Davis owns a piece of an Italian restaurant chain, an auto parts manufacturer, a frozen yogurt chain, a cosmetics company. And he was one of 2 angel investors in Wetzel's Pretzels.
Shoot.
He then sold the company before malls started dying off. So he got out in time.
Wow.
He started an investment firm with that money, and he's never bought a professional sports team because he thinks that buying sports teams are for poor people.
Wow.
Basically I'm just joking.
That'd be amazing.
Basically,
It's like, you poor rubes buying basketball teams, whatever.
Basically, what I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Stallone, is that John Davis knows how to make money. So in 1996, when a movie called Daylight came across his desk and he saw that it was starring you, he said to himself, looks like it's time I got into the Sylvester Stallone business. And he did. Did he care about your $17.5 million asking price? No. Or the fact that you demanded you stay at the Excelsior Hotel in Rome for 3 months, even though it cost $3,500 a night to stay there? No. Did he care when you insisted that your son Sage have a part in the movie, even though he's not an actor? And the only reason why he would have ever gotten that part is because he's your kid? No, he did not. Because John Davis saw something in your son that screamed star power, maybe? No. Maybe it's because he wanted to be in the Sylvester Stallone business, even though your housing allowance cost the same amount as a moderately sized 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in most American cities. This movie ended up making $159 million at the box office worldwide because in the 90s, people loved action movies, especially action movies that weren't really about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And also because John Davis knew people getting trapped in a highway tunnel was going to make money. Lots of money. Wetzel's Pretzels money. So if you don't know the name, you should start to learn it because John Davis is the Stallone connection this week. And also, if you ever want to be part of a Predator movie, you're going to need John Davis to sign off on it. And I'm guessing here, but he's going to need a lot of money. Thank you for listening. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
You don't realize this, but during the Stallone connection, there was another Stallone connection that was going on.
What do you mean?
I'm in a different location this week recording, and during the Stallone connection, my girlfriend was cutting a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But she was cutting the pizza much like one Marion Cobretti.
With scissors.
I look over and this girl's cutting pizza with scissors. So Stallone runs deep around here, no matter what's going on.
My word.
Holy God. I look over at her. She's just like straight cutting into a pizza with scissors. I love it.
She's a keeper.
Indeed. All right, so let's get down to it. Here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. I'll start with me, since you just gave us the Stallone connection. For me, Prey was a lot of fun. I was kind of surprised by it, but at the same time, I guess not so surprised by it, because I am a fan of Dan Trachtenberg and stuff that he's done in the past and whatnot, and I knew that he'd be a good good fit for this, and sure enough, shooting that he was, and I hope that this really kind of, between 10 Cloverfield Lane and this, I hope it really starts to get him up there. Get him some more bigger and better stuff and things like that, whatever he kind of wants to do. He was going to do Why the Last Man as a movie at one point. Did you know that?
I'm glad he dodged that bullet.
But yeah, for me, I was excited by this one. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'm going to say good Tim Drake on this bad boy. Very entertaining.
Yeah, for me, it is the highest of Tim Drake's. It's not a perfect movie, so I can't give it a Dick Grayson. But boy, man, I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen it twice. Like, I can't tell you the last time I saw a movie twice. It's been a long time.
Yeah. It's gotta be something.
You know what? I can tell you what it is. It's Spider-Man No Way Home. That's the last one that I saw more than once. And so for me, this is the highest of Tim Drake's. It's a marvelous movie. And if you have any affinity at all for Predator, or for the Comanche Nation, then you should.
I'll go so far as to say I don't even think you need to necessarily be a Predator fan to enjoy this. I think you can see this as a completely outside the box
the first time you've ever seen a Predator. I agree.
This would still totally work for you, and I don't see how you could have complaints from that. So
if you like movies that are good,
check it out.
Good movie.
So that's what we do here. We review good movies, or at least we certainly try to, and TV shows as well. Because
we want to.
We want them to all be good. Unfortunately, that is sadly not the case. We'll talk a little bit about what we're doing next week in just a moment. But in the meantime, Sean, where can they find more of our work on the internet?
Well, we have a show called 30 Questions, and it is usually some nerdy property where we ask 30 questions of whatever that property is, be it your Marvel TV show or your Star Wars television show or some nerd TV show.
We got it. Why don't you go on the internet and check it out? Links are in the show notes. And check out Bruce Leslie. Check him out over at Anime Dad. He's back dropping some videos and good stuff like that. Check out my guest appearance on the All American Spook Show podcast, where we talk about a movie, a summer camp movie from 2015. That's it's got an interesting element to it. So check out All American Spook Show if you can find that wherever podcasts are found. That is it, everybody. Next week we're talking about Paper Girls. Hopefully Bruce is back for that one, because he's the one that's been angling.
Oh my Lord, has he ever? So he better be back for that.
Yeah, if he's not back for that, but at the same time too, we'll always cover these things because that's what we do around here.
It's true. I may end up loving this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We have to give him a little bit of crap every now and then, just because he's so insistent. We're just like, this better be good, doggone it. But we'll check out all that coming up next week. So join us next week for Paper Girl, for Sweet Sean's Kovacs from the internet, the absent Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and eBay.